Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel, Raja Gogasikoder 1719. Imagine standing in a place where the world suddenly feels small, where the sky rises higher than your imagination, and where a single mountain commands silence from everyone who sees it. This is the moment when humans first looked up at the giant we now call Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. But Everest was not always known by this name. Long before explorers measured it, local people worshipped it. In Tibet, they called her Komolangma, meaning the mother goddess of the world. In Nepal, she was revered as Sagarmata, the head of the sky. These ancient names were more than words. They were expressions of deep respect, awe, and spiritual connection. Even today, climbers from every corner of the world speak about Everest with a tone that mixes fear and admiration. Because this mountain doesn't just rise above everything else, it defines what highest truly means. Modern measurements place Everest at 8,848.86 meters a height, so extreme that a single gust of wind at the summit can freeze exposed skin within seconds. But numbers alone can't explain why Everest fascinates us. Why do thousands of people dream about a place where the air is dangerously thin? Why do explorers risk everything just to stand at a point where even birds struggle to fly? The answer lies in what Everest represents: the ultimate frontier, the ultimate challenge, and the ultimate test of human will. It is a place where every step upward feels like a step beyond the limits of survival. As we begin this journey into Everest's story, remember this: Everest is not just a mountain, it is a question, and for centuries, humanity has been trying to answer it. To understand Everest, we must travel far beyond human history, back to a time when the world looked completely different. Before there were mountains, before there were continents as we know them today, something extraordinary began deep beneath the surface. Hundreds of millions of years ago, two massive landmasses, the Indian Plate and the Eurasian Plate, began moving toward each other, very slowly, just a few centimeters a year. But when continents collide, even a few centimeters can change the shape of the entire planet. What happened next is nothing short of miraculous. As the plates pushed against each other, the Earth's crust crumpled like paper. Layers of ancient seabed filled with shells and fossils were forced upward, higher and higher. What once lay deep under warm ocean water began its rise toward the coldest winds on Earth. And from this colossal collision, a new mountain range was born, the Himalayas. Among them, a single peak grew faster, sharper, and mightier than all the rest. That peak was Everest. But Everest didn't stop growing. Even today, the mountain continues to rise, tiny movements, just millimeters each year, but enough to remind us that Earth is alive. Everest is not a frozen monument. It is a breathing, shifting creation of nature's unimaginable power. Think about this for a moment. The rock under a climber's boots at the summit once rested on the ocean floor. The highest point on Earth began in the deepest places. In a way, Everest carries the story of the entire planet written layer by layer, stone by stone. And that is why scientists, climbers, and dreamers all see Everest not just as a challenge, but as a reminder of our world's incredible history. A history shaped by forces far older and far stronger than humankind. As our journey continues, we will discover how humans first tried to reach this mountain, and how the quest to stand on its summit changed the world forever. For centuries, Everest stood untouched, a majestic giant known only to the people who lived in its shadow. They honored it, feared it, and respected its power. But far away, in distant lands, the world was changing. Maps were being drawn, borders explored, and mountains measured. And soon, Everest became more than a sacred peak. It became a mystery the world wanted to solve. In the early 1800s, British survey teams began studying the Himalayan region. They used heavy instruments, carried across dangerous terrain, just to make a single measurement. And then, in 1856, something extraordinary happened. They calculated that a peak then known simply as Peak 15 was the tallest mountain on Earth. The announcement stunned the scientific world. Peak 15, higher than any summit ever known. A mountain so tall that no human had ever stood anywhere near its top question mark. Dot suddenly comma the race to understand this mountain, and one day, climb it had begun. Over the next decades, mountaineers, explorers, and dreamers risked everything to reach its base. Some came seeking glory, others came driven by curiosity. But almost none truly understood what they were facing. Everest storms, avalanches, and thin air turned back even the strongest teams. Then came the legendary expeditions of the 1920s and 1930s. Climbers like George Mallory and Andrew Irvine attempted to reach the summit from the northern side. Mallory famously said he wished to climb the mountain because it is there. Those words echoed across the world, a simple yet powerful expression of human ambition. But Everest was unforgiving. Mallory and Irvine vanished high on the mountain in 1924, leaving behind one of the greatest mysteries in mountaineering. Did they reach the summit before disappearing into the clouds? To this day, no one knows for certain. Despite these tragedies, human determination only grew stronger. More expeditions followed, each learning a bit more, each pushing a bit higher. Decade after decade, climbers returned, trying to solve the riddle of Everest. And finally, after half a century of attempts, the world would witness an achievement that changed history. That moment arrives in the next chapter, the moment when two men, with courage greater than the mountain storms, would finally stand on the top of the world. After decades of failures, storms, and unanswered questions, the world waited for a hero. Everest had defeated some of the strongest climbers of the early 20th century. Yet the dream of standing on its summit refused to die. By the early 1950s, a new generation of climbers stepped forward, better trained, better equipped, and driven by a determination that felt almost unshakable. The British decided to make one more attempt in 1953, assembling a powerful team of experts, scientists, and high-altitude specialists. But even with preparation, the mountain remained unpredictable, silent, dangerous. Among this team were two men whose names would soon be written into history. Sir Edmund Hillary, a tall, quiet beekeeper from New Zealand, and Tenzing Norgay, a legendary Sherpa climber known for his unmatched strength and spirit. Their backgrounds could not have been more different. Yet on Everest, they became partners bound by a single purpose. The expedition faced brutal conditions, collapsing ice, punishing winds, and the constant threat of altitude sickness. Many members became too exhausted to continue. Some turned back, accepting that Everest was simply too powerful that year. But Hillary and Tenzing pushed onward. On the morning of the 29th of May, 1953, as the world slept, the two men began their final ascent. Every breath felt like fire. Every step felt like lifting a mountain. The air was so thin, that normal breathing could barely keep them alive, let alone moving. Still, they climbed. Finally, they reached a narrow ridge. One last slope remained the highest point on Earth. And then, in a moment that changed history forever, Hillary and Tenzing stepped onto the summit of Everest. For the first time in human existence, someone had stood at the very roof of the world. They spent only about 15 minutes there, because on Everest, even triumph can be deadly if you stay too long. They left offerings, took photographs, and embraced the silence that only the top of the world can hold. When news of their success reached the world, celebrations erupted across continents. Newspapers called it the final great adventure of mankind. For people everywhere, their achievements symbolized what humans can accomplish when courage meets determination. Everest had finally been conquered, but this was only the beginning. In the next chapters, we explore how the routes were established, how the mountain became a global obsession, and how the journey to its summit continues to evolve. After the historic success of 1953, the world no longer saw Everest as unreachable. But that didn't mean the journey became easier. In fact, climbing Everest remained one of the most dangerous challenges on the planet. And to reach the top, every climber must pass through a deadly series of natural obstacles, each more terrifying than the last. The journey begins at base camp, a temporary village of tents perched on shifting ice. Here, climbers spend days adjusting to the thin air. Many arrive with excitement, but leave with fear. Because from this point onward, Everest begins revealing her true nature. The first major challenge is the Khumbu Icefall, a frozen river of towering ice blocks, crevasses, and unpredictable movements. The ice shifts constantly, sometimes collapsing without warning. Climbers move slowly, knowing a single mistake can be fatal. Beyond the icefall lies Camp 1, a lonely world of snowfields where winds howl like living creatures. Then comes Camp 2, a place surrounded by walls of rock and ice, known as the Western Point. Here, sunlight can reflect so fiercely that temperatures feel hotter than a desert, even though the world is covered in snow. From Camp 2, climbers face the Lhotse Face, a steep wall of blue ice rising thousands of feet. Every step requires strength, discipline, and unshakable focus. This is where many climbers realize Everest does not test the body first. She tests the mind. Above this lies Camp 3, suspended on a slope so steep that climbers sleep tied to the mountain, afraid that a shift in their dreams might send them sliding into the abyss. Then comes Camp 4, on the South Col, a place known as the waiting room of death. This is where the death zone begins. Above 8,000 meters, the human body slowly shuts down. The air is so thin that even resting feels like running a marathon. Frostbite, exhaustion, and oxygen shortage become constant enemies. Many climbers lose their lives here, long before they reach the summit. And yet, every year, people return, because beyond the death zone lies the final reward, the summit of Everest. The path to the top is narrow, exposed, and deadly. Climbers must cross the Hillary Step, a vertical rock wall near the summit that has challenged generations. After that, the ridge curves toward the highest point on Earth. But reaching the top is only half the journey. More climbers die during the descent than on the way up. Everest demands respect, not just for her height, but for her unforgiving nature. And still, the dream remains. Because for those who dare, the road to the summit is not just a path through ice and storms, it is a path through their own limits. In the next chapter, we explore what happens inside the human body during this extreme adventure, and why climbing Everest is a battle against nature and yourself. Climbing Everest is not just a battle against the cold, wind, or altitude. It is a battle against your own body. Because as you rise higher into the sky, your body slowly begins to break down in ways most people never imagine. At sea level, every breath fills your lungs with enough oxygen to stay strong and alert. But on Everest, above 8,000 meters, the air contains only 1/3 of that oxygen. Each breath feels thin, fragile, almost empty. And this is where the terrifying transformation begins. The heart starts beating faster, pounding heavily inside the chest. Muscles lose strength. Even small tasks like tying a shoelace or taking a step can feel impossible. Climbers describe it as breathing through a straw, struggling for air that simply isn't there. The brain begins to suffer next. With less oxygen, concentration fades. Thoughts slow down. Some climbers experience hallucinations, seeing things that are not real. Others forget simple instructions, a dangerous mistake in a world where one wrong move can end everything. Then comes the silent killer. Hypoxia, a condition where the body is starved of oxygen. Hypoxia can cause confusion, memory loss, or sudden collapse. Even the strongest athletes can be brought to their knees. As climbers move higher, the temperature drops to levels colder than Antarctica. Frostbite becomes a constant threat. Fingers and toes can freeze within minutes. Many climbers return with permanent injuries or without limbs at all. And yet, the deadliest place is still the one climbers fear most: the death zone. Above the death zone, the body cannot survive for long. Blood thickens. The digestive system shuts down. Muscles begin consuming themselves for energy. Even sleeping here is dangerous. Some climbers never wake up. Many bodies remain frozen on Everest forever, reminders of how unforgiving nature can be. But despite all this, climbers still push forward, driven by something deeper than fear. Some call it ambition. Some call it passion. Others say it is the human spirit, refusing to accept limits. Everest doesn't just test your strength. It tests your courage, your discipline, your will to survive. In the next chapter, we'll explore the people who make these climbs possible, the legendary Sherpas, and how their unmatched courage shapes every Everest expedition. If Everest is the world's greatest mountain, then the Sherpas are the world's greatest mountain people. Their story is not just a part of Everest, it is Everest. Because without them, most climbs would never even begin. The Sherpas are an ethnic group who have lived in the high Himalayas for centuries. Their bodies have adapted to the thin air in a way scientists still study with amazement. Where most humans struggle to breathe, Sherpas move with calm strength. Their hearts pump blood more efficiently. Their lungs absorb oxygen at extreme altitudes. It is as if nature shaped them specifically for the mountains. But their true strength is not just physical. It is spiritual, cultural, emotional. For Sherpas, Everest or Chomolungma is sacred. It is not just a mountain to be climbed. It is a goddess to be respected. Before expeditions begin, they perform ancient rituals asking for safety and blessings. These ceremonies remind everyone that humans do not conquer Everest, they only borrow her permission. Yet despite their deep reverence for the mountain, Sherpas willingly guide climbers through the most dangerous terrains. carrying heavy loads, fixing ropes, and securing paths. They are often the first to face the icefall, the storms, and the unknown dangers hidden in the snow. Their courage is unmatched, their sacrifice immeasurable. Many Sherpas have lost their lives while protecting others. Avalanche tragedies, collapsing ice, and extreme weather have taken away fathers, sons, brothers, heroes whose stories the world rarely hears. Yet every year, Sherpas return with the same dedication. Not for fame, not for glory, but to support their families and to honor a tradition that runs deeper than the mountain itself. When climbers celebrate their success on the summit, they know in their hearts they reached the top because a Sherpa walked beside them. Everest may be the tallest mountain, but Sherpas are the tallest spirits. In the next chapter, we explore how Everest transformed from a dream of explorers into a global phenomenon, attracting climbers from every corner of the world and creating challenges no one predicted. Everest has long been a symbol of human ambition, courage, and endurance. But as its fame grew, so did the dangers, not just from the mountain itself, but from the very people drawn to it. In recent decades, Everest has become a global magnet. Commercial expeditions now bring climbers from all over the world, some experienced, some novices. Each year, hundreds of people attempt the summit, often during the same narrow weather window. And here lies a new danger: congestion at extreme altitudes. Climbers can be seen forming long queues on narrow ridges where the air is too thin to sustain life for long. One small delay can mean exposure to deadly cold, exhaustion, or altitude sickness. On some days, the summit resembles a crowded highway, a stark contrast to the solitude explorers of the past once faced. Tragedy is never far away. Each season, stories emerge of climbers lost, of avalanches sweeping through the icefall, and of frostbite ending dreams forever. Some never returned, becoming part of the silent army that rests forever on Everest, frozen reminders of the mountain's unforgiving nature. Yet, for every tragedy, there is triumph. Climbers continue to conquer seemingly impossible challenges, inspired by the same drive that led Hillary and Tenzing to the summit in 1953. Everest teaches a hard lesson. Courage alone is never enough. Preparation, respect for nature, and humility are equally essential. The mountain also faces another, quieter challenge: climate change. Glaciers are retreating, icefalls are shifting, and new hazards are emerging every year. Paths that were once safe now threaten the lives of climbers. The mountain itself is evolving, and humans must adapt or face devastating consequences. Everest's story is a delicate balance, a dance between ambition and caution, between reverence and desire. Every climber who reaches the top knows the truth. The mountain is not conquered, it is respected. And for every success, there is a reminder of the risks that lie just beyond the next ridge. Everest challenges us in every way, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And as humanity continues to dream of standing on its summit, the mountain quietly reminds us. It rewards those who respect its power and punishes those who underestimate it. In the next chapter, we will explore the impact of climate change and how Everest, the world's tallest mountain, is slowly transforming before our eyes. Everest has always been a force of nature, powerful, timeless, and awe-inspiring. But now, even the tallest mountain on Earth is changing. And these changes are not subtle. They are profound, visible, and accelerating. The glaciers that blanket Everest are melting faster than ever before. Icefalls that once took climbers carefully days to navigate are becoming unpredictable. Deep crevasses, shifting seracs, and unstable snow bridges now appear where explorers once walked safely. What was once solid can collapse without warning. Scientists warn that the mountain's very structure is being affected. Rock faces that were frozen solid are now vulnerable. Avalanches are becoming more frequent. Even the routes that have been used for decades are no longer guaranteed safe. Everest, in many ways, is reshaping itself, reminding climbers that even the highest peak is not immune to the effects of a warming planet. But the impact goes beyond climbers. The melting ice threatens local communities who depend on Himalayan rivers for water. Glacial lakes are swelling, creating new risks of flooding downstream. The mountain, sacred to millions, is quietly sending a warning. Climate change is real, and it reaches even the roof of the world. Yet, amid these changes, human determination continues. Expeditions are adapting. Scientists are studying the mountain, mapping new hazards, and sharing knowledge to keep climbers safe. Technology, careful planning, and respect for nature have never been more critical. Everest, the eternal challenge, now carries a new lesson. It reminds us that human ambition must coexist with responsibility, that even the mightiest mountain is fragile in the face of global change. The question remains, will future generations be able to experience Everest as we do today? Or will the mountain we know slowly disappear under melting ice and shifting glaciers? In the next chapter, we will explore how modern climbers and technology are reshaping the way people approach Everest, making the climb safer, yet still intensely challenging. Everest remains one of the most dangerous places on Earth, but the story of climbing it has changed dramatically in recent decades. Today, technology and modern safety measures allow more people to attempt the summit, but the mountain still demands respect, skill, and caution. Climbers now carry GPS devices, satellite phones, and weather trackers to navigate safely through treacherous terrain. Oxygen systems allow them to breathe in the thin air above 8,000 meters, giving their bodies the strength to survive the death zone. Specialized clothing, boots, and gear protect them from extreme cold, frostbite, and sudden storms. But even the best technology cannot guarantee safety. The mountain remains unpredictable. Helicopter rescues are only possible at lower altitudes, and above the death zone, a single mistake can be fatal. Every step on ice, snow, or rock must be deliberate. Every decision can determine life or death. Modern climbers rely heavily on experienced guides and Sherpas, whose knowledge of the mountain is unmatched. These guides not only carry supplies and set ropes, but also anticipate hazards and make split-second decisions that save lives. Without them, even the most well-equipped expedition could fail. Yet, with technology and commercial expeditions, a new challenge has emerged: overcrowding on summit days. Even with the latest gear, climbers may be forced to wait in line at extreme altitudes, where each passing minute increases the risk of exhaustion, hypoxia, and frostbite. Everest today is a balance between innovation and tradition. Technology makes it possible for more people to reach the summit, but it also reminds us that nature is always in control. No device, no oxygen tank, no skill can tame the mountain completely. The modern climb teaches a crucial lesson: preparation, teamwork, and respect for the mountain are just as important as courage. Everest rewards those who respect its power and punishes those who underestimate it. In the next chapter, we will explore the ethical questions, environmental challenges, and economic impact of climbing Everest, and why the mountain continues to captivate the world despite its dangers. Everest is not just a mountain. It is a complex world where human ambition, cultural values, and economic interests collide. As more climbers attempt its summit, questions of ethics and responsibility grow louder. Climbing Everest generates significant income for Nepal and the surrounding Himalayan communities. Permits, guides, Sherpas, and local services support thousands of families. For many, the mountain is not a challenge. It is a livelihood, a way to survive and thrive in an otherwise harsh environment. But with profit comes responsibility. Overcrowding, environmental damage, and unprepared climbers have become major issues. Trash and discarded oxygen bottles accumulate on the slopes. Avalanches and accidents are more likely when inexperienced climbers attempt dangerous routes. Each year, the mountain reminds us that ambition without preparation can be deadly. Ethical questions also arise. Should climbers rely on Sherpas for their safety? How much risk is acceptable? How do we balance economic needs with safety and environmental preservation? Everest asks these questions silently through tragedy and triumph alike. The future of Everest depends on balance. Stricter rules, experience requirements, and waste management protocols can protect the mountain and the people who live near it. Yet, it is equally important to honor local traditions and provide livelihoods for Sherpa communities. Everest remains a mirror to humanity. It shows our strength, our greed, our resilience, and our respect. Every climber who reaches its summit carries not just personal glory, but the responsibility of preserving the mountain for future generations. The question lingers: can humanity continue to climb Everest without destroying the very mountain that inspires us? Can we find harmony between ambition and stewardship? In the final chapter, we reflect on what Everest truly teaches us, not just about climbing, but about life, courage, and the delicate balance between humans and nature. Everest is more than just the tallest mountain on Earth. It is a symbol, a teacher, and a mirror reflecting the best and worst of humanity. It reminds us of courage, ambition, and the power of dreams, but also of humility, respect, and responsibility. Standing on the summit is not just a physical achievement. It is a spiritual and emotional journey. Every climber who reaches the top faces the limits of their own body, the strength of the human mind, and the mercy of nature. The mountain tests you, reshapes you, and leaves an imprint that lasts a lifetime. Everest teaches us that triumph is never guaranteed. For every success, there is sacrifice. For every record, there is risk. It is a place where glory and tragedy coexist, where dreams are realized and lives are forever changed. It also teaches us about balance, between ambition and respect, between human desire and natural limits, between progress and preservation. Everest demands that we acknowledge not just our power, but our responsibility. The mountain continues to rise, glaciers continue to shift, and storms continue to rage. Yet humanity's fascination with Everest remains eternal. For those who climb, it is a test of strength. For those who watch, it is a source of inspiration. And for the world, it is a reminder of nature's grandeur, a force far greater than any human endeavor. Everest is not conquered. It is respected. It is lived, endured, and revered. It is a story of the earth itself, ancient, powerful, and ever-changing. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: to stand on the roof of the world is to see the earth whole, to feel both its beauty and fragility, and to understand that we are part of something far larger than ourselves. Everest whispers to all who dare to climb, respect me, honor me, and you will understand the true heights of life. Everest is not just a mountain. It is a journey through history, through courage, and through the limitless human spirit. So friends, this was today's amazing information. Hope you liked this video and learned something new. If you found the video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you again in the next video with another new and surprising thing. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay tuned to learn. Jay Goga Sikatar Ma.